Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Transparent Tuesday. I hope you guys have been having an amazing week. As you guys know, God's Will's Ministry is adopting families for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is next week. And with everything that is going on in the world, if you need any type of help for Thanksgiving, sides, a turkey, please reach out, let me know, and I will help in any way that I can. I'm also adopting families for Christmas. I know it's a tough time right now, but if you need a blessing or you can be a blessing, please contact me. Also, as you guys have seen and I've announced different times, Crowning Queens, my coaching business, is going to launch December 14th. So reach out, go to the website. That way you're able to set your free consultation with me. I'm so excited about all the things that God is doing. Actually, for those of you that don't know, and you may not know my testimony or my story, get a copy of Marrying Outside of God's Will. I promise you it's going to bless you, or it may bless someone else that you know. But the holiday season is always an emotional time for me. And the reason it's such an emotional time for me is because when I left my ex-husband, it was during the holidays. My children and I were staying in a hotel, sleeping on a friend's couch, going house to house. Just so many things were going on. And our holiday season was not the usual, the normal. So I always sit back and I always think how far God has brought me. So today, that's what I want you guys to do. We're living in such a crazy time in the world right now, but I want you to remember and think about how far God has brought you. So 3 years ago, around this time, my sons and I were staying in the Parkview Hotel. My oldest son, had broke his growth plate, so he was on crutches. The transmission had went out in my truck, and my babysitter at the time was picking up my children and taking them to school for me. And a mother in Christ that I have would take me to work or drop the kids off at daycare. Like, God provided us a village, and we needed this village during this time. And the help that we had, even though at nighttime we were going to a hotel and we were dealing with a bunch of drama because I had just left my ex-husband, all of our needs were still met. I still had the money to pay for the hotel weekly. We were still able to eat. And even though the truck was broken, we weren't able to move around the way that we wanted to. We were still able to get to the store, to get to work, to get to school, to get to where we needed to be. The Thanksgiving after that, I was staying in Apple Valley in apartments. Mind you, my children have not lived in an apartment since I had my fourth son, and I had 8. Baby girl wasn't here yet. So that was like a culture shock to them. They're like, Mom, we don't want to be here. Why do we have to be in these apartments? Some of the kids are like, what is an apartment? We've never lived in an apartment before. But it was such a humbling experience because they needed to see and they needed to learn. Everything isn't handed to you. You have to work hard for things that God gives to you. And, a lot of things went down when we stayed in the apartments. Fights happened. Things transpired between my ex-husband and I. And we moved from there and we stayed in a hotel for 2 weeks, 16 days to be exact. And then we moved into our house. So from the time that I left my ex-husband until now, today, we've hit rock bottom. And when I say rock bottom, I mean there was no way up. We had nothing. I lost my job. I lost cars. I didn't have enough money to do the things for my children that they were used to doing. Thank God they were able to still stay in sports, but I wasn't able to pay. School shopping came around and I was barely able to get the bare minimum. We barely were able to have a back to school trip. So we literally had hit rock bottom. And then we were slowly coming up, right? And I remember when I stayed in the apartments, my kids were still going to school in Victorville. So I would drive in the morning to drop them off to school in Victorville, go home, and then go back and pick them up and take them to their sports. And every day I would tell my neighbor, a raven's going to come, a raven's going to come, a raven's going to come. That was that radical faith that I had, because I knew that God was going to provide a way. He was going to provide gas for me to get my kids back and forth to where they needed to go, that he was going to meet our every need. So crazy thing, last night, I was in my room, and out of nowhere, something was like, read the story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And this story is when the king had this god that he made, and they were supposed to worship it. And he called for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he asked them, like, are you guys going to worship him? They're like, no, we believe in God, and we believe that God is going to get us out of the situation, because he put them in the fiery furnace. And they said, even if he doesn't, I'm still not going to worship your God. I'm still going to believe in God. That is radical faith. So from the time that I first remember my first encounter with Christ till today, I was telling my friend when I was talking to her last night, where's the radical faith? God has stepped in my life. I remember I tried to kill myself. I was cutting myself. If you guys read my book, some of you that don't know, my oldest son, I almost jumped off a bridge with him. But God told me, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And I didn't do it. Being homeless, going to jail, being away from my kids, being in jail. I was in jail, right? One time, the very last time I went to jail. And probation said, no, let me start from the beginning. So I had this warrant, 5-6 years. And the probation officer called my cell phone and said, you need to turn yourself in, because if I find you, it's going to be bad. So I get in the shower. Me and my kids were staying in the hotel at the time. And I just cry out to God, like one of those ugly cries, like I'm down bottom of the shower on my knees, crying out like, God, what am I going to do with my kids? I can't trust anyone with my kids. I had 6 kids at the time. My little Lorenzo, number 6, I think he was like 6 months. So I ended up leaving them with their dad, and I go to court and I turn myself in, and I kept telling their dad, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. I'm just letting you know, I'm going to jail. I have everything set up. I'm going to jail. So they lock me up, and I go to court, and the judge says, what have you been doing? How come they weren't able to find you? I said, I have 6 kids. I didn't have time to get in trouble. And she said, I don't believe you. So we're going to put you in jail, and we're going to do an investigation background. I said, okay. The whole time I'm in there, I'm just crying and praising God and just praising him, because I'm like, Lord, I know that every door has been shut on me because I had to come and deal with this. And because I'm coming to deal with this, I know that you're going to bless me. I know that you're going to give me favor. So I go to court, and the public defender comes and he talks to me, and he says, probation wants you to do a year because you absconded. You didn't report. They couldn't find you. And I said, no, go back and talk to the district attorney. So the public defender went back. He talked to the district attorney. And the whole time I was sitting there, and I'm like, God, you said that if I trusted in you, I would not be ashamed. You said all it took was a mustard seed of faith. I turned myself in. They didn't come for me. I went to them. I said, God, you hold the king's heart in your right hand like streaming water, and you can turn it any which way you choose. Public defender came back, and he said, time served, dismissed. I had a panic attack in the courtroom. I could not believe they went from saying that they wanted me to be a year away from my kids to you're going home. Those of you know I have an associate's degree in paralegal studies. My first job as a paralegal, I had 0 experience. I was working as an administrative assistant for Colonial Life in San Bernardino. I applied to one of the top family law firms in the high desert. and I got the job. They did a background check on me. No felony, no record, no nothing. It was nothing but God that I went from in the jail, one of the inmates sitting in the courtroom, to walking in the courtroom with the attorney as a paralegal, filing paperwork in the courtroom, dealing with clients. I remember, so the house that I left when I left my ex-husband, it was a house in Victorville. And I remember I kept praying for a new house, kept praying. And not the owner, but the realtor, it was the owner's friend. He said, I'm giving you this house without any credit check or anything because you're a paralegal, so I know you can pay the rent. That was nothing but favor from God. When I first left San Bernardino, I looked for houses up here in the high desert. I found a house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, Adelanto, $800 a month. I called them. I'm like, I'm at work. I can't come up there. We can do everything through fax, everything. I faxed them everything. They checked all my paperwork. They called to verify, where I was staying at. And they said, we're not even going to run a credit check on you. If you want the house, it's yours. So you would think all these things, and this is just the bare minimum surface that I'm sharing with you of the things that God has done for me and has done for my family and the things that I've seen, that I would have that radical faith, right? That I would have, my faith would be so strong because I know where God has brought me. I know that God has saved my life. I know that God has put food, has brought clothes, put roofs over our head, provided money, provided everything that we've needed when we've had nothing. God has brought me from rock bottom to stable so many times. And I'm sorry for getting emotional, but it's just like, I'm just so grateful. The world that we live in right now, I don't care if God doesn't give me another blessing. I'm going to praise him and I'm not going to turn away from him. I don't care what's going on in the society right now. I don't care about any of that because I know that my Father's going to provide for me. I know that my Father's going to provide for my children. So everything that's going on, or if it gets to the point, well, do you choose Christ or do you choose to live? I choose Christ because I'm nothing without him. I have nothing without him. I went to a revival in, I believe it was 2018. Yes, because my daughter was born 2019. And the evangelist told me that God was preparing my table in front of my enemies. And that I was going to get remarried and he was going to love me and accept my children as his own. And I was going to have a daughter. And she told me exactly why I didn't have a daughter previously. I'm living that life right now. I have my daughter. I look at Genesis every single day and I thank God for her because I prayed 11 years for her. And I was told so many times and so many different reasons why God would never give me a daughter, but he did. She is living proof every day to remind me that the impossible is very possible. I told my kids a couple nights ago, because we do Bible study, and I was just like, you have to sit and you have to think how far God has brought us. And every day is not going to be perfect. God gave us life so we can live it more abundantly. But at the same time, when you're a Christian and you choose to follow Christ, you put a target on your head. So the enemy sees you as a threat. And let me say something else. If you're a Christian and you're living life and the enemy is not attacking you, something's wrong, because he only attacks when he sees a threat. So if he doesn't see you as a threat, something ain't right. So we have to count it all joy because God brought us from whatever the past was. A lot of you guys know about 75, 80% of my past, right? You think that he brought it? Okay, I'm not going to say us or we. I'm going to say Francis. I know that God has not brought Francis this far to leave me. So whatever it is, whatever issues, whatever attacks that may be coming down, he's going to get me through just like he got me through before. But the wonderful thing about it is because I choose to follow Christ, he's with me throughout the situation. I'm not going through anything by myself. And that in itself is a blessing, because it means no matter what, no matter how it looks, even if I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I already have the victory because Christ is with me. Just think about that. Just for a moment, think about where you were 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 8 years ago. What was your life when you first, very, very first had your first encounter with God? When you first heard his voice? And think about where you're at now. You're a walking, living testimony. Everything was necessary. Yes, a lot of things we cause on ourselves because God gives us free will. And I, Francis, am very hard-headed. Very, very hard-headed. And I've made a lot of bad decisions, and I've caused a lot of things on myself. But at the end of the day, God was still with me. He's like, even though I got this hard-headed little daughter of mine, I'm not going to leave her, and I'm not going to forsake her. And I'm going to help her get through this, and I'm going to help her learn. And then I'm going to teach her that I chose her, that she's called, because, many are called, but few are chosen. I know that I'm chosen. I know that everything, every mistake, every pitfall, every desert that I went through was necessary. I know that I needed to go through everything to this point. I know that God didn't bring me this far to leave me. And I know it was all necessary. And I'm so grateful to God. I'm so, so grateful to him. And I know that I'm nothing without him. And I have nothing without him. And I know that I need to get back into that radical faith, because it's funny. People used to say, I've never seen faith the way Francis has it, because Francis just has this crazy faith. And it's like, I need to get back to that. I can't lose eyesight of that. I can't allow the things that are going on around me in my household, with my kids, with my husband. I cannot allow anything to distract my faith. God didn't do all this for no reason. He didn't allow me to survive. He didn't stop me from multiple suicide attempts, or keep me out of jail, or keep me out of any bad situation that I've ever found myself in for me to forget. Never forget. I know a lot of times we want to forget bad situations, but sometimes we don't realize that's when God carried us through. That was when he was with us. That's when he could reach us, because we had nothing and no one to depend on but him. All we could do was look up. That's when he was able to talk to us and get through to us, because we were broken and we were open and we were able to receive. Don't forget. Don't forget. And if you're in that moment, just start praising it, because all you can do from here is rise. All you can do from here is rise. It's all necessary. We're all loved. And if he got you through before, he's the same God yesterday, today, and forever. He's not a perspective of person. If he did it for me and he did it for you before, yes, he can do it again. Walk that thing out. Keep that radical faith. Never forget where or how far he has brought you from. You guys have a wonderful weekend and evening, and until next Tuesday. Peace.